Please welcome June and Jessica to the show. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Tamron. Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for having us.
I love
Yes,
this.
thank you.
June, I'll start off with you because I know that you wanted the podcast to have this girls' night feel, this vibe. And you had a recent conversation that I feel I have had every Thursday night with my friends about the reboot of Sex and the City and Just Like That. You all launched into this conversation and you dovetailed into female-centric content and the importance of it.
Listen, I mean, I know this is a morning show, so I'll keep it PG, but our girls' nights and the nights we would spend with our girlfriends were just so restorative and hilarious that we wanted, listen, there's no reason to hang out if we can't make money off of it. So now we get to take those conversations and try to capitalize on it. But it's just so much fun. And yeah, we talk about, the reboot of Sex and the City and how so much of women's conversations and women's narratives and their stories are often seen as frivolous. And yet our own experience is that these friendships have been sometimes life-saving and so special.
I love that, Jessica, because even when I launched this show, I would go into meetings with folks and they would trivialize women and what we talk about. And I mean, and this is in 2020. I could not believe it. So it's so refreshing to have shows like yours reaffirm, A, that we can have hour-long conversations, because that's a battle I fought, and I know you've been very committed to having long conversations. And one of your podcast's biggest themes is the importance of friendship, female friendship. And I think you described it, the most unexpected thing that you can meet someone when you're in your 30s, because you do in college, you might meet high school, if you play sports, whatever, but once you're 30, finding friends is tough. And you talk a lot about that.
Well, I had to pretend. I actually lied and said that I loved The Real Housewives when I had never seen an episode because June asked me to join them for that's how our ladies' night started. And I was like, love the Housewives, gotta have them. And it wasn't until, 4 or 5 girls' nights where I just had to admit, I have no idea what is going on.
Yeah, you didn't know any of the history. You didn't know the lore.
You didn't know.
Yeah,
so why did you feel that you needed to lie? Was it to fit in?
Yes. I needed friends. I moved out from Los Angeles. I left all of my childhood and high school and college friends behind. And my husband at one point said, we may need to move home because you're experiencing failure to thrive without your girlfriends. That's how important they are to me. I felt like I was withering away.
I've had the same best friend since I was 4 years old, and I've acquired at each stage in my life different best friends. I have my college crew. I've got, the crew when I lived in Chicago, my first job. And so you do, but at a point, you wake up and you think, wow, I don't have any new friends unless they are parents of children who are in my kids' circle, which is a whole other thing.
And that can be a dangerous game. I have some wonderful mom friends, but you can find some duds out there too. So it's hard to it's just true. I'm sorry, I have to say it.
June, we should still have a thing where, remember when you were on a bad date and you would have your friend call you? We should have that for the park. I'm so sorry. There's an emergency.
I cannot. So you said this is a morning show. We happen to air throughout the day around the country, so you can keep it real. There are, June, some duds that you want. There are some other moms you want to ghost. I will not name names, but it happens. And you talk about that on the show, where just because my child likes your child does not mean we have to hang out.
And I am very relieved because we're now entering the stage in my house of drop-off play dates. So I feel a little bit better because there were times where I'm like, I'm doing, 3 hours with this woman over a set of train tracks, and the clock is ticking. These are the longest hours I've ever spent alive.
There's no chemistry. We know instantly is there chemistry,
Well, the other thing,
especially if
no, I was going to say, just the other thing, Tamron, is Jessica and I we are in the same industry.
Yeah.
And so what I love about our group of friends, our group of girlfriends, that yes, we've met later in life, although we're still quite young, Tamron.
Yeah,
we're still
in our 20s, late 20s.
Yeah, late 20s. But we're set up really to compete in our industry and to like you can really easily internalize this idea that there's only room for one woman in
Yeah.
the job or the thing. And so, that's a very natural setup. And I've actually found the opposite to
Yeah.
be true,
I
which is
agree.
that,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
so
I
many
agree.
of, I think that's a narrative that's not really true because my girlfriends who I am competing against professionally all the time could not be more supportive.
I wake up to a text probably every day from Joanne Reed, my dear friend at MSNBC,
Oh,
encouraging
love
me
her.
and me encouraging her. That's how
That-
most of my days start. But I have to tell you what I love about your show, and we'll talk about it after the break, is that it's a party, but other people feel that they are invited to the party. And that's why this podcast is so popular. Next up, the story behind this image, the podcast art. What's going on there? More with June and Jessica, their hit podcast everybody's talking about. We'll have them after the break. Well, I'm back with actresses Diane Raphael and Jessica St. Clair, who also host their own podcast called The Deep Dive. Jessica, love the artwork, love the outfits. What is it?
Great question.
Okay, so if you are in your late 20s, as we are,
Mhm.
you grew up with the Ann Geddes calendars. You know, the ones where they put the babies in like a
Oh,
pea
yes.
pod,
Right in the pea
or
pod, yeah.
they're a sunflower.
Yes.
And I do not know why, but we became obsessed with putting our heads on one of those babies. And we thought there's no way Anne is going to want this. But she was on board.
Are you guys
Hey,
grapes?
I slid into her DMs. It's amazing what can happen when you slide into someone's DMs. And I got there and we made it happen. And she was so wonderful to lend us her
I
artwork
love
and her
it.
photography. But it was also about this idea that, yes, we are adult women in the world with children and lives, but there's something really playful and childlike
Yeah.
about our friendship and some of the things we talk about and our, not to get too weird, but our child selves that are still very much so with us and kind of integrating
It
that.
should be. That's how
Um,
you keep, life, that optimism in life. I think that
that's right.
remains in the youthful version of ourselves. But I have to ask you, because with podcasts, people often want to know, how do you pull it off? You're always in different rooms, I'm assuming.
Always.
Always in
Before
different.
the pandemic, we actually recorded some of the first interviews before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and we were homeschooling our children, which is like being in the
Oh,
seventh circle of hell.
yes.
And so we had no time, honestly, to edit it or even brush our hair. And so we ended up holding it till after the pandemic. And it ended up being the best thing ever because we realized that women were desperate for their girlfriends and to
Right.
be a part of a community and to hear their experience reflected back, sometimes even when it's as simple as I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
And so we created this community. And I will tell you, every single one of the deep divers, we call them, who write in, and I respond to everybody on DM because I'm insane. I would have a cocktail with them. I would have dinner with them. They are just these lovely women, some of them mothers, some of them not. They're just women of substance. And they all are coming to us with their most authentic selves.
Yeah.
And it is the most beautiful thing I really believe June and I have ever done.
I love that you talked about how to juggle it with children in the house. A lot of people are teaching their kids at home, but when you're trying to record something, I've had to do Zoom interviews. When we were doing Zoom from home with the show, I would leave sometimes. This is the honest God, my team will tell. I would leave crying because I could hear my son, and I wanted to go up and help him, and then he's in the background and he's popping in on the Zoom saying hi. And I'm like, listen, this is hard. How did you adjust to the technical aspect of it, June, getting all that done?
I mean, listen, I do have a husband who's tech savvy. I'm not responsible for this lighting or this microphone. So
I'm not responsible for your husband's responsible for my lighting as well.
Yes. So
that poor man.
My feminism ends there, right before tech. So I'm happy to outsource that to the men in my life. But honestly, Tamron, I think that we leave a lot of the mess of our lives actually in the podcast. So we just recorded and my son ran into the room with a terrifying mask on his face, and we left it in because the truth is that women's lives are messy, and we
Yeah.
are responsible for holding so many spaces and for taking care of children. And I think it's really important to actually show and share that this is what it
I
is. This
love
is
it.
what it looks like. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want to present, I mean, obviously I'm going to look good, but I don't want to present anything else. You
Yeah.
know, like life is messy.
Life is messy and sometimes it's beautiful. And I love that you are together
Yes.
enjoying it all and the deep divers are appreciating it. Congratulations, June and Jessica. Thank you again.